We're going to look at a very important and timely passage found in Revelation chapter 13. I'm going to start reading over in verse 15. It says, "He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell, except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." There was an interesting article posted at the Church of England's website recently, reporting on activities at the European Parliament. Apparently, members of the European Parliament drafted a written declaration asking member nations of the EU to protect the observance of Sunday as a work-free day. The wording of the resolution, or at least part of it, runs like this. It says, "The European Parliament calls on the member states and the EU institutions to protect Sunday as a weekly rest day in forthcoming national and EU working time legislation in order to enhance the protection of workers' health and the reconciliation of work and family life." If you read the whole resolution, it makes great sense. They've noticed, for example, that sickness and absenteeism significantly drop at workplaces that do not require their employees to work on weekends. They also point to the long tradition of Sunday observance throughout European history, and they seem to genuinely have people's well-being at heart as they're discussing this whole issue. There's just one problem with the resolution, at least from a biblical perspective. Should Christians set aside dedicated time for worshiping God? Of course. Should we stop punishing our bodies and our families by taking time to rest? Absolutely. But how exactly should that happen? If you study the passage we read today very carefully, you discover that a legislated day of rest is a dangerous precedent for Christian nations to set. In the last moments before Christ comes, the book of Revelation talks about this movement that pushes for mandatory worship, and it eventually calls for severe punishment for those who do not toe the line. It talks about forbidding people to buy and sell. And when issues related to worship become legally mandatory, the world is headed in the wrong direction. Don't forget what happened the last time the Christian church was able to dictate religion-based laws over on the European continent. We got stuff like the Spanish Inquisition. Again, I have no problem with people wanting a day off or with people wanting to worship, obviously. Those are absolutely good and biblical ideas. But when people start calling for mandatory worship, for legal tampering with the first 4 of God's 10 commandments, we're simply taking a step in the wrong direction. The kingdom of God, after all, is built by changing hearts, not by passing laws. Forcing people by law to live Christian lives doesn't make them Christian. And throughout Christian history, we've had to learn the hard way that religious liberty really is the better way to live.